Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm Dr. Khan, and I am joined as always by the brilliant Dr. Sara. Today, we're diving into the team sports of the human body, functional muscle groups. We aren't just talking about a single muscle contracting in a vacuum, we're talking about the choreography of movement. Think of it like a high-stakes Broadway production where everyone has a specific role to play: the lead, the rival, the stage crew, and the backup dancers.
That's a great way to put it, Dr. Khan. For those of you prepping for the boards, this isn't just about naming muscles. It's about understanding their roles as agonists, antagonists, fixators, and synergists. These definitions are high yield because they describe how the body maintains stability while executing complex tasks. If you can't identify which muscle is doing what during a movement like knee extension, you're going to struggle with those multi-step clinical vignettes.
Exactly. Let's start with the star of the show, the agonist, or the prime mover. This is the muscle primarily responsible for a specific movement. If I'm kicking a soccer ball, my quadriceps femoris is the agonist for knee extension. It's the lead singer doing the heavy lifting. But Sarah, why does this matter clinically? Why do I care who the lead is?
It matters because if the agonist is weak or paralyzed, say due to a peripheral nerve injury, the movement simply won't happen effectively. For the boards, remember that the agonist shortens, but every lead needs a rival, which brings us to the antagonist. This muscle opposes the action of the agonist. When the quads are extending the knee, the hamstrings, specifically the biceps femoris, act as the antagonist.
I love the antagonist because I think of them as the brakes on a car. They don't just sit there, they provide a controlled resistance. If your antagonists didn't relax through a process called nervous reflex inhibition, your movements would be jerky and dangerous. Imagine trying to snap your arm straight if your biceps refuse to let go. You'd tear a muscle or damage a joint. Clinically, we see this in spasticity or certain upper motor neuron lesions where that rival won't step aside.
Spot on. And that brings up an important board concept. Roles are functional, not fixed. A muscle can be an agonist in one move and an antagonist in another. During knee flexion, the hamstrings become the agonist and the quads become the antagonist. It's all about the direction of the joint angle change in the sagittal plane.
Now, let's talk about the unsung heroes, the fixators. I call these the tripod or the stage crew. They stabilize the origin of the prime mover so it has a firm base to pull from. Dr. Sara, give us that classic board exam example of a fixator.
The classic example is the shoulder girdle. When you use your deltoid to abduct your arm, muscles like the serratus anterior and the trapezius contract isometrically to fix the scapula against the rib cage. If those fixators aren't working, like in a long thoracic nerve injury, the scapula wings out and the deltoid loses its mechanical advantage. You can't fire a cannon from a canoe, right?
Exactly. You can't fire a cannon from a canoe. If the base is wobbly, the movement fails. This is huge in physical therapy and sports medicine. We often spend more time training the fixators than the prime movers because that's where the stability comes from. Now, Sarah, tell the students about the synergists. These are the ones that always seem to trip people up on exams.
Synergists are fascinating. They are helper muscles that prevent unwanted movement at intermediate joints. Many of our agonists cross multiple joints. For example, the long flexor muscles for your fingers also cross your wrist. If you want to make a tight fist, you don't want your wrist to flop into flexion at the same time. So the extensor muscles of the wrist contract as synergists to stabilize the carpus. This allows the finger flexors to focus their energy exactly where you want it, on the digits.
Why does this matter clinically? Think about doctor of choice level diagnostics. If a patient has a nerve injury that affects the synergists, they might lose function in a completely different area. If your wrist extensors are paralyzed, like in a radial nerve palsy, you actually have a very weak grip. Even though the finger flexors are fine, they can't work efficiently because the synergist isn't there to hold the wrist steady. It's all connected.
That's a high-yield clinical correlation, Dr. Khan. It also reminds me of how muscles dictate the deformity in fractures. When a bone breaks, it's the pull of these functional groups that determines where the bone fragments go. In a hip fracture, the powerful lateral rotators and the upward pull of the thigh muscles cause the leg to shorten and the foot to point outward. The muscles aren't just moving us, they are constantly exerting tension.
And that leads us back to muscle tone. Even at rest, these groups are talking to the nervous system. We test this clinically by checking reflexes, like the patellar knee jerk, which involves segments L2 through L4. If those segments aren't healthy, the whole agonist-antagonist balance is thrown off. Understanding these groups is the key to analyzing a patient's gait, or figuring out why they can't reach into a cabinet.
To wrap this up for the students, agonist is the prime mover, shortens, antagonist opposes it, yields, fixator stabilize the base, isometric, and synergists prevent unwanted intermediate joint movement. If you can visualize these roles, you'll master the musculoskeletal section of your exams.
Beautifully summarized, Dr. Sara. Remember, folks, anatomy isn't just a list of names. It's a living, breathing system of cooperation. Next time you pick up a cup of coffee, think about the lead singers, the breaks, and the stage crew making it happen. We'll see you in the next episode.